look what the cat dragged in. So this is a Boxford 160 CNC lathe, and these lathes were typically used in schools. This one's had a pretty hard life by the looks of it. It was very cheap. I don't need a CNC lathe. I haven't really got space for a CNC lathe, but this came up at the right price and it looked like a good challenge to try and get it fixed up and working, and I'm sure I can slot it in somewhere. As you can see, it's in pretty rusty, dirty condition, but everything seems to be there, including the original control system. The plan would be to upgrade this control system, but hopefully reuse a number of the components. For example, I'm hoping to reuse the steppers if they're in reasonable condition, reuse the stepper drivers, possibly reuse the variable speed control and things like the power supplies and that sort of thing. Now I need to do a bit of research in terms of what control system I want to upgrade this to. There are a number of options. On my little CNC mill I have Mach 3, so that's a possibility, but I've heard it's not great for thread cutting, so we'll have to look a little bit more into that. I've stripped the lathe mechanically, but I've left most of the electronics in place, just because I want to cosmetically clean it out first, make sure there's no grit or dirt in the ways, and then test the electronics and see what I should keep and what I should strip out. The mechanical parts have been cleaned and most of the rust taken off with a Stanley knife blade and Scotch-Brite, and they've come up quite nice, as you can see. The machine appears to have very little wear. You can see still see most of the scraping marks on the ways. I masked the lathe, put some extra primer on it, and then sprayed a few coats of white on it. The machine's all cleaned up now and all the rust removed, so it's looking a lot better. And in a minute I'll show you what happens when I plug it in. With the machine on, the fan starts, which is always a good sign. We can get some lights on the front. I can jog the axes. If I turn the feed speed up to maximum, if I turn it back down again, we don't seem to get any rapids. That's the same as without the rapids pressed. And if I press the spindle on, we hear a relay but nothing else, so I do wonder whether the spindle drive has died. So we've got some decisions to make on this machine. Ideally I wanted to keep the stepper drivers and the stepper motors, the spindle motor and the spindle drive. It's looking like the stepper drivers and motors are working, but it looks like there's a spindle driver fault. So yeah, really I guess a question to viewers, what do people think I should do? Should I rip out the motor driver and replace it? Should I rip out the stepper drivers and put a new breakout board, stepper drivers, relays, etc. in? Or should I even go and rip out the stepper motors themselves? I'll be interested to hear people's opinions, and it will form the basis on where we go next with this machine.